Hey, how do you feel about spoilers? Back in the day, I went to go see a play written by Clive Barker, the famous horror creator who was behind the Hellraiser series. He wrote a play called History of the Devil. Spoiler warning, if you intend on trying to find it online and reading it, a production of the play pops up in your community and you don't want to get spoiled, you might want to skip this video or skip ahead. The History of the Devil is basically a play about the devil taking God to court.
Just in time for Halloween. The trial of the millennium is about to begin, and you've been called for jury duty. Clive Barker's The History of the Devil is on stage.
I'm going to give you obviously a very condensed version here that kind of just does not do the incredible script and play justice. Basically, the devil takes God to court, and the play goes through moments in time, moments in history, where the devil just happens to be there, and it's human beings who mess up and make choices, bad choices, evil choices. So the devil's saying, hey, it's not my fault, it's all these corrupt human beings. The trial ends and the devil wins, and he gets to go to heaven. So the final scene in the play is the devil going to heaven, walking off stage to enter the pearly gates, and then you hear a blood-curdling scream, and the devil runs back out in the middle of the stage and collapses to the floor, saying, it's empty. Meaning, of course, that no one was worthy of being in heaven, and the devil's punishment is to be in heaven for all of eternity alone. I bring this up because the challenge for a lot of young men is feeling that they are enough, that they're good enough, that they're worthy. And we live in a day and age where more and more we are calling into question the character, the integrity, the actions, the impact of men and young men, and trying to hold them accountable or invite them into accountability. I think it's important for us to think about how we can have these conversations in ways that are helpful, that will invite people more and more to step into accountability, to accept responsibility, to want more of themselves, but also creating space for us as men and young men to be accountable, to step into accountability and take ownership for the impact that we've had and the kind of impact that we want to have. I think sometimes there is a justifiable pushback in certain cases when it's a good faith conversation of no one's worthy enough. I'm not worthy enough. I can't attain this level. I don't know how to be at this standard. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, whether it was 30 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 weeks ago. A lot of these things are what you're hearing men and young men saying. So all these calls for accountability, whether it's people calling you in, calling you out, pulling you aside and having a conversation with you, having no choice but to take it to a public space and outing you and calling you out in front of the public as a last straw to make you step up and do better. And of course, there are conversations where we need to be realistic around what a person is capable of when they know only what they know. What did a person know at the time, and what do they know now? Of course, we learn from mistakes, the mistakes of others or mistakes that we make, but it shouldn't have to come to that, right? I mean, when we make mistakes, that can be at the expense of women, girls, gender expansive people. Now, hopefully, we pass on our stories of mistakes and lessons learned the hard way. But it's hard when you feel like you can't even talk about this stuff because you're afraid of being canceled, you're afraid of being judged for talking about your mistakes. So, how do we learn as a culture? How do we create a culture of learning and unlearning and growing? It's a critical conversation to have where we want people to be accountable, not letting anyone off the hook, but also being realistic as far as how do we create a culture, a space where people can do that learning openly, talking, whether it's in spaces of accountability in private, or whether it's spaces where men, for example, are talking with other men about what accountability can look like and modeling it through telling stories of their own experiences and what they've learned and passing that on to other men and young men. While it is completely understandable to be frustrated when you are called in or called out, when someone accuses you of something, when someone pulls you aside and gives you feedback about the impact you had on them or someone else, I think it's important to sit in that moment and reflect and think about where you want to take this lesson, this moment of opportunity for you, this moment of growth for you. Pushback can look like, well, I'm a good person. We're good people as men. We're a good country. Well, here's your opportunity to prove that. Here's your opportunity to prove that through how you respond and react taking that moment to think about how I want to react and saying this is a moment, an opportunity of growth. Do I create space for people to meet me halfway? I can't promise anyone I'm a safe space. What I can do is say I'm striving to be a safer space. And part of that is wherever I am in any space or place where I worship, live, study, hang out, play, I'm someone who's trying to get it right, trying to do better. And that can mean I'm someone that's trying to speak up and stand up for people. And I'm also someone that you can come to and feel that you are safe to meet me halfway, and respecting and honoring what it takes for someone to meet you halfway and say, hey Jeff, can I talk to you for a minute, and pull you aside and share feedback, tell you about the impact you had on them, you left on someone else, left in a space, had on somebody, and it's an opportunity to grow and do better and be better. Thinking about what it takes to reach out to someone and give them that feedback, let them know. We can meet them halfway and thank them for the opportunity to course correct, to change, to strive to make amends. You might not be able to make amends to that person, but you can make amends in the way you live the rest of your life. Rather than being upset that you're not someone that is just given grace, given mercy, given forgiveness, maybe ask yourself, how can I be someone upon whom grace is bestowed? How can I earn grace, earn the grace of others? And that can be in how you respond and react and the way you live the rest of your life. The way that we're conditioned as men, the way we view the world, that lens that we look through, is a lens where we feel that we're not enough. I'm never enough. And part of that not enough is feeling that I'm not worthy. So when we receive criticism, it's understandable to see that, through the lens, the way we see the world, that we interpret criticism as hate, that it's an attack on us. And the way we view the world as men, our idea of value, of worth, is domination over others, control, having power over others. We view criticism as someone trying to dominate us or trying to put us in our place to make us smaller, to make us feel smaller. Understandably, we feel smaller because of guilt and shame over something we know we've done or not done enough of or contributed to or been a part of. And that's, part of it. That's natural. It's how you move through that, what you do with that feeling, how you move forward. That's key. How could this be different? How could this be better? And it's embracing and recognizing and being thankful that there are people who are invested in you as a man or a young man, that are invested and care about us as men, care enough to say, hey, I know this could be different. And I know that you could be more. You could be more than. Not you are not enough, but that you could be more than this, more than the mistakes you've made, more than the harm or disappointment you've caused, more than the hurt that you've brought to loved ones or community or people you don't know. So it's about embracing that call to take action, a personal action, and in turn helping model it to others. There aren't as many examples, living role models in our lives because of shame and fear of talking about these things openly. But if we can model it more and more to each other and talking about how we've learned to grow, we can find examples and be examples of what this can look like. The other side of this coin is recognizing what it's like to receive this kind of feedback. And I think we've all been on both sides of this either way, So recognizing when people are questioning, well, am I worthy? Am I good enough? Am I worthy of, love, worthy of forgiveness, worthy of grace? Part of this is recognizing that we can encourage people to step up, to do it better, to get it right, being hard on the issue, the harm they've caused, but also keeping the door open for that person's potential to step back into their humanity. And part of that journey is them learning to value not only their humanity, but the humanity of others, everyone around them, people they know and don't know, in all sorts of communities. If we can encourage them to step forward and do that, there's potential for growth. Of course, there are people that for whom they're a lost cause for you, right? They're not your battle. That's something, they might be someone that's for someone else to try to tackle. We can't take on every issue, every problem. There are surely some people that are not interested in trying to grow, people who aren't interested in feedback, who are rejecting you taking the time to invest in them and their humanity. What I'm saying is, of course, pick and choose here who we reach out to and encourage and invite to change and grow. But it's thinking about how, rather than treating others as disposable, we can model, even in how we talk to each other, how we want to say, I'm not here to dispose of you, but inviting you to step up and be more, do more. And again, on the flip side, we can be people that when we walk around, not only are we striving to be a safer space and someone who doesn't cause hurt, harm, or disappointment, but that when we do, we're willing to show up for the consequences of that. If your intention was good, okay, let's see how you show up for the impact. Let's see what you do about it. The fact of the matter is, nobody is worthy. We're not perfect. We're all imperfect. But that's the point. The point is that you are on a journey, on a path. And rather than looking for shortcuts, rather than staying stuck in, dead ends or circles, rather than trying to find a way to jump over everything and avoid everything, it's treating roadblocks and obstacles as opportunities to think about what we can do differently. And more importantly, when we are the ones who created roadblocks and obstacles for others, we can treat that as an opportunity to think about, how can I operate, navigate life, live my life in a way where I'm not causing harm, but when I do, I show up to make a difference. Because it's not just for the sake of others, it's for the sake of yourself. Rather than trying to numb ourselves, run away, try to compensate, try to hold power over others, try to feel strong by making other people feel small, we can lean into the things we're running away from and address it and heal so that we can all heal and grow and create the culture and the spaces that we need so desperately.